Welcome back. I'm Dr. Rob Melillo. I'm joined here by Laura Van Aken. Laura's son struggles with challenges connected with adoption, very common, including reactive attachment disorder. So we talked a little bit about that before the break. Tell us about your son when you adopted him. How old was he when you adopted him?
He was 5 months old.
And so when did you get the label of reactive attachment, and what brought you to that?
5 years old. And it was someone who had met us a few months before and observed our family, and actually pulled me aside one day and asked me if I had ever heard of reactive attachment disorder. And that was the beginning of an amazing journey.
And one of the things that you had said was that you had found out when you finally got to therapists that really could explain to you what was happening, that you may have been doing some things wrong or the opposite of what you should have done.
Absolutely.
So why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Well, you know, it's a parent's natural intuition to tell a child what to do or what not to do. It's very natural for the parent to put the child in timeout if he or she is misbehaving.
Of course.
But what happens with an attachment disordered child is that child feels abandoned or rejected, which is exactly what they experienced either pre-verbally or post-verbally when they were younger from adults in their life. And so when the primary caregiver gives what they perceive as rejection or abandonment, their fears are confirmed.
You know, what you highlight there is very important, because most of the attachment disorder world is really looking at trying to work with the parent, meaning that you can give better signals to your child, and that's very important. But again, the question is, why does it happen so often with children who are adopted? And that is a neurological basis. So the way I look at it is that we look at people that have what we call outside-in issues, meaning the parenting to the child, not giving the proper signals, and being trained by a therapist or somebody that knows how to do that to deal with that. But then what most people don't realize is also what we call the inside out. Child's brain has to be able to receive that, and if they have imbalances in development, then often that affects that. So, you know, we're gonna talk more about this at another time, but this is really a really fascinating topic. But what you saw as well was that you had changes when you changed your attitude, but it wasn't until you did really some neurological interventions and tried to balance out the brain that you really saw much more resolution, correct?
Yes. Yes, the attachment therapy that we did was effective, but only to a point.
Right. So that you needed to do the neurological integration as well. So that's really important for people to know, because I don't think most people know that. So let's get back, let's talk more about you though.
Right, it must be so difficult to have a child that acts out and you don't understand, and you spend all your time loving and nurturing. But what about you? Do you get to do much for yourself? Do you get to have a social life? Do you get to go shopping?
No, except for groceries, things like that.
Except for groceries, and I bet you have to buy special groceries, and that takes a lot of time and effort too. So I know that your son is such a big part of your life, but how do you feel? Do you feel like you're Laura, or do you feel like you're just his mom? I mean, do you ever get to feel like yourself anymore?
For many years, I did not feel much like myself. I actually became depressed. I was every once in a while invited to go out, and I didn't go because in my head I wanted to go out, but my body was just exhausted because of the emotional drain it had on me.
I don't think people realize how hard it is to have a special needs child. I'm sorry, how hard it is. It is a beautiful, thankless job. What you do will make the difference in all the world for your child, but you also have to remember yourself too. And I think when this is what we'll move on to the next segment is a bit of a mommy boost for you, Laura, because when you feel better about yourself, your child sees it, your husband sees it, and I know that Rob has said 85% of marriages with children with special needs ends in divorce, and it's really important to take time for yourself.
When was the last time you went on a shopping spree? Before yesterday.
I was going to say yesterday. It had been months, if not years.
And how did that make you feel? Did that make you feel different? Did that make you feel like, sometimes did you not go out maybe because you just didn't feel like you had clothes to wear?
Yeah, we didn't have money because we were spending it on therapy for our son. Whatever we could do for our son, we were doing. And so it was a money issue, it was an energy issue, it was a time issue, it was all of those things. And I just stopped putting Myself, even second, really.
And
It
has
was
that
all about my
affected
son.
your relationship with your husband at all?
Somewhat. He
Yeah.
actually is a very, very supportive. I've been blessed. Very
That's
supportive
wonderful.
husband. Very supportive, but it did put a strain. It does put a strain on our marriage, and we have to be very careful not to grow apart as a result. The
Right.
differences in parenting, the different opinions, things like that about how a child should be raised can really get interesting when you have a child with special needs.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, so it's important that you guys got to take care of your heart. You got to take care of your home. You got to take care of each other. And if you're not taking care of yourself, and that's what I see all the time, parents sacrifice themselves. It's basically they throw themselves on the grenade. And in doing that, they often lose their marriage and they lose themselves.
Right.
Well, we're going to cut to the break, and we're
Okay.
going to be back with Laura and a wonderful makeover, and we thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.